gold is $35 and everything defaults, or whether gold is $35,000 and nothing defaults. The question isn't even, what number will trigger hyperinflation, because the hyperinflation will basically happen when no one with gold wants to exchange it anymore with dollars.
Signature, First Republic, and Silicon Conman Valley Bank. Three banks went bust. Woof, down goes the markets. Woof, gold prices spike. One country after another talking about building up the war against Ukraine. These wars build up again. It goes back to gold. It's the number one safe haven asset in the world. And if you didn't have these cryptocurrencies, gold would be $7,000 an ounce now.
What if I told you the global economy is already past the point of no return, and the final trigger for the biggest gold and silver revaluation in modern history is quietly unfolding right now? For years, analysts warned that our debt-based monetary system would eventually hit a mathematical breaking point. Today, that breaking point is here. Banks are cracking, currencies are losing purchasing power, commercial real estate is collapsing, and geopolitical tensions are intensifying across multiple regions at the same time. Now, two of the most outspoken voices in monetary truth, Rafi Farber and Gerald Celente, are openly saying what even many gold veterans considered unthinkable. Gold may not simply rise, it may be forced into a massive repricing, potentially toward $35,000 an ounce, just to keep a collapsing monetary order alive. This isn't a prediction for shock value, it's the result of structural failures that can no longer be reversed. And in the next few minutes, we're going to break down exactly what's happening, why gold and silver are acting like the only real money left, and what recent market signals reveal about the reset that's already underway.
If there's not enough money for repo and the Fed has a standing facility that they can print whatever cash in exchange for treasuries for anyone who needs it, why is it that interest rates would be rising if they can just print money for anyone who needs the repo? And obviously they can't. For some what reason they call friction, or maybe some regulatory whatever that they can't get around. The standing repo facility just doesn't work. But I don't understand the technicals as to why it doesn't. If we go to default, then that's not just one default. That's a default of everything, because once you have the first default, then whoever is owed that money can't pay back whatever he owes, and then you start a domino and everything falls. And then we go back to $35 an ounce eventually after everything's cleared out. But once we're talking about that, it's not really that much of a difference. If whether gold is $35 and everything defaults, or whether gold is $35,000 and nothing defaults, at what number will trigger hyperinflation, because the hyperinflation will basically happen when no one with gold wants to exchange it anymore with dollars. So what's going to be the final print number for, the final price of gold before the point where no one will sell any for any dollars? And then we'll be in hyperinflation, because once you won't accept gold for dollars, you won't accept anything, and you can't sell anything. I guess we're technically in an infinitesimal reserve banking system, and if you're going to make the fraction infinitesimal, that's where we are. No, I don't think that's going to cause it. I think that's one of the requirements, because the reason that they would eliminate reserve requirements is because they don't want banks hoarding reserves. They want them loaning out, which means that banks don't otherwise want to loan out money. They would rather just not loan it out and hold it there, which means there's not enough demand for the dollars, and that's the impulse for deflation, for falling prices and debt defaults. But in the final stages, or even in the semifinal stages, you have a constant war between deflation and inflation. The natural forces want debt default because all the debt is worthless anyway. And then what the central bank does is say, no, you can't default, because if you default, I see the domino, and we're not going to allow that. So they force more spending, but then the currency compensates by falling and falling in value. So the real value of all this new debt keeps falling and falling. I think there's this famous chart. I know where I saw it. I saw it on Daniel Oliver's last on his speech that he gave to the New Orleans conference. He gave a speech, and he had some graphs, and one graph was the value of the German mark relative to the dollar, like we just saw, you just showed us. But then overlaid on it was the total value of the entire market cap of German marks in gold, and it kept falling and falling and falling to almost nothing. So again, it comes down to the same thing. It's just the mechanics are different. Like
Yeah.
either the value of all this stuff is going to fall in real terms, and then the currency is going to because the currency is going to disappear because it's backed by debt, and the debt falls. And in which case you have a falling value of market cap of currency, or it's going to fall because of hyperinflation, and you're going to have the same falling value of market cap of currency. 2011 was the gold high at 1923 in September 2011, and then around that time, I don't remember exactly when, but QE3 was 2011, right? When they started the 30 billion a month. And then gold went down for like 4 years during QE3 as the balance sheet was expanding, as they were printing money, gold went down. So the way that Daniel Oliver puts it is that if QE has is if QE is being enacted, he doesn't say it exactly this way, but so I'll just rebrand it in terms of my understanding of him, I guess. If QE is being done during a time of falling consumer prices, then you can re-expand the bubble, the asset bubble, and then you have the same effect. Whereas like people put all their money in the stock market, they put all their money in tech, or they put whatever's moving up at the time, they'll put their money in to store it away, and then you'll have the a deflationary effect while QE is going on. So a more basic way to understand it is like if you print money to stimulate, let's say, oil drilling, and then all the investment is going into all oil drilling, and then the prices of oil fall because there's so much more supply because of all the money you printed. The supply of oil can go up faster than the supply of money is spreading around generally, so then prices fall as you're printing money. It's paradoxical, but it only lasts so long. But in the current situation is that price inflation, consumer prices are rising, and the banking system is starting to like get a little bit squeaky, and they're going to need more printing while prices are rising, and that really disturbs the psychology. So this time I think QE will affect consumer prices a lot faster, and will hurt confidence in the currency a lot faster, and you'll see interest rates starting to rise even though they're doing QE. Enough physical silver to last my family a year based on 1920s 1930s prices of basic necessities. Beyond that, I have some, maybe like 60% physical gold stored somewhere with different places with different vaults, different services, that kind of stuff. All physical, no unallocated stuff, and maybe 20-30% miners and streamers, and 5-6 per, like, in the single digits, somewhere in the low single digits, like options and more exotic bets, and about 15-20% cash. Did I count over 100? It might not
Yeah,
be
we got,
exactly
yeah,
something like that.
yeah,
Just something vague. The amount of silver at the Shanghai Exchange is like at a record low, or 623 tons, or something, a very low number.
yeah,
So they're not controlling that, but the amount of gold in the Shanghai Exchange is at a record high.
yeah. So,
But
I,
then again, I wanted to just go
yeah,
over this basic principle that it doesn't matter how much money China has. It's like China's not like a unit that we have to worry about. It's not, and even in a more general sense, it's not the amount of gold that a government has doesn't matter. What matters is their ability to inflate. It's the ability to inflate that makes people poor. The fact that a government might have a lot of gold, if it has to spend that gold in order to get stuff that it wants, then that's fine. They'll get stuff as long as they have gold, but whoever they're trading with will demand the actual gold in exchange for the stuff, because they don't trust that country's currency, which they can no longer inflate because the inflationary system is dead, and that's why everyone's gone to metals, which is the money itself. So if they have to spend the gold in order to get stuff, well, that's fine, because eventually they'll run out of gold, and then it'll be homogenized again, and then it'll be fine. So as long as no government can inflate, then nobody can get an unfair advantage, and then governments will just buy what they can until they reach a gold or silver level that they're
yeah,
comfortable with, and they don't want to go lower, and then we can get to an equilibrium again.
The core warning from Rafi Farber and Gerald Celente is that the global financial system is now past the point where debt can be repaid without destroying the value of the currency itself. Every major stress event, bank failures, repo market dysfunction, credit tightness, shrinking liquidity, collapsing commercial real estate loans, points to the same reality. The world is running on money backed by debt that can never be settled, and the latest data makes this impossible to ignore. Gold is holding firmly above the $4,000 level, forming one of the strongest long-term support zones in history as investors hedge against falling real yields and weakening currencies. Silver has surged more than 60% this year, driven by industrial shortages, supply deficits, solar demand, and de-dollarization flows. The gold-to-silver ratio is stuck around 80 to 83 to 1, signaling that silver remains deeply undervalued relative to gold and could be preparing for a historic catch-up move. Western vaults continue to lose metal, premiums remain elevated, and central banks are once again buying gold at near-record levels as nations diversify out of the dollar. This is the environment Farber has been warning about. Hyperinflation, he explains, does not begin when prices rise. It begins when people who hold gold refuse to exchange it for dollars. The moment real money stops flowing back into the paper money system, the currency collapses in purchasing power. His message to investors is direct. If you wait until the psychology breaks, you may never be able to secure physical metals again. Celente ties this financial breakdown to global tensions. Wars in Europe and the Middle East, record defense spending, weakening Western economies, the rise of the BRICS, and a global shift away from US dollar dominance all accelerate the timeline. According to Celente, every major trend is pointing toward the same outcome: the erosion of fiat trust and the return of metals as the foundation of settlement and stability. Both Farber and Celente highlight a final wild card governments may use when the debt burden becomes unmanageable: a formal gold revaluation. This is not speculation. The US has done it before, and raising the official gold price to $7,000, $10,000, or even higher instantly shrinks sovereign debt without defaulting. In other words, gold may not simply rise by market forces. Governments may be forced to reset its price to prevent a systemic collapse. Their shared message is clear. Gold and silver are not rising because they are becoming stronger. They are rising because the financial system around them is becoming weaker by the day.
Let's go back to 2023, not ancient history, only 2 years ago. Signature, First Republic, and Silicon Conman Valley Bank. Three banks went bust. Woof, down goes the markets. Woof, gold prices spike. Three banks. You're going to see 30, 40, 50 banks start failing. Again, we got to go. Trends are born, they grow, they mature, reach old age, and die. COVID was 5 years ago, the war. Now the leases are coming up and they're not taking all this space back because a lot of people are still working at home and they're only coming back maybe 3 days a week. They don't need all this office space. There's going to be an office building bust that's going to bring down the bank. No one's talking.
Gold and silver are rising because of geopolitical tensions and central bank buying and all this stuff, but it's all interwoven. It's all in one big picture. So explain to us what's going on, how in the way you see it when it comes to the metals market.
Go back to the Trends Journal, top trends for 2024. Golden year for gold. Gold went up 27, 30%. And then we said Trump got into office, gold prices are going to keep spiking. Go back to October 16th. You could look it up. Go to our YouTube, Gerald Celente or Trends Journal. And I said that gold would go down about $500 an ounce because it really spiked up and nothing goes straight up or straight down. You have to have it correct. The next day, gold hit $4,379 an ounce. That was the top. The next week, boom, goes way down. $500 it ended up going down. Last Thursday on our podcast, I said gold has to solidify above $4,000 an ounce. Once it finds a solid base over $4,000 an ounce, it's going to keep going back. And as we went on the air, it was at 4,194. It hit 4,245 and it back down. So it stays above 4,000, 4,700, 4,070, 4,100. It's going to keep going up. Same with silver. Again, you nailed it. You made it very clear. It's the geopolitical and socioeconomic uncertainties that are going on. And they're going to keep ramping up these wars. Israel's going to keep ramping up the war against Iran. Ukraine's going to keep ramping up the war. Russia's going to keep ramping up the war. Russia said that no ceasefire, no end to the war. I mean, Ukraine's losing this war. And they're wiping out their energy sources. People have no heat, no electricity. And again, you go back to the Trends Journal on February 22nd, 2nd, 2 days before the war began in 2022, we said there's no way in the world that Ukraine could defeat Russia. Russia beat the Germans in Operation Barbarossa after World War II, after the Germans killed 25 million of them. And they were the first ones to beat the Germans. What makes you think you're going to be able to beat them? Is Ukraine. So they're going to ramp up. You're going to see a false flag event. Maybe they'll hit a nuclear power plant to get the people to continue this war. And that little, I call him Heil Merz, the little clown boy over there, that's the Chancellor of Germany. Oh, from BlackRock? Yeah, that guy. Germany's been in a recession. This is the 3rd largest economy in the world. In the world. The largest economy in Europe has been in a recession for 2 years. And now this crap spewing out of Mertz's mouth. Oh, we're going to have growth this year. You know what the numbers are? They expect the GDP to grow by 0.2%. What, are you kidding me? That's not. Oh, but we're going to borrow $1 trillion to build up our defense, because we have to stop those Russians. $1 trillion. Oh, we're going to build our infrastructure. You can hold a tank. Oh, these are the Germans. You like World War I? Nah, I like World War II. And look at that little clown boy over there in France, Macron, a little garçon with a pecker smaller than this. We're going to maybe send troops into Ukraine. One country after another, talking about building up the war against Ukraine. These wars build up. Again, it goes back to gold. It's the #1 safe haven asset in the world. And if you didn't have these cryptocurrencies, gold would be $6,000, $7,000 an ounce. I think my first buy was like about $163, $168 an ounce, something like that. And I've been following gold since then. And they keep saying that gold prices now are spiking like they have back in the late 1970s and early 80s. There's no comparison. Back then, America was the world leader in many, many different ways. Mm-hmm. Those days are gone. You look at, I forgot the numbers, but China's GDP, India's GDP back then, it was nothing. And now it's like $20 trillion, China's. Look at the BRICS. They've had enough of dollar denomination, and it's going to be the death of the dollar. And gold is dollar-based. So again, the lower interest rates go down, the deeper the dollar falls. The deeper the dollar falls, the higher gold prices go, because it's cheaper to buy in other countries as their currencies are going up. And again, the death of the dollar is coming. This is not the same America as it was back in late 1970. Again, China was nothing. India was nothing. There were no BRICS. So it's a different story now. And so we can see gold prices, escalating very rapidly and much. Trump and Musk said they were going to go into Fort Knox to see how much gold we had there. They'll say, we got more gold. We got so much gold. We're raising the price of gold. They'll raise the price of gold to do away with the debt level. That's a possibility, which would drive gold prices way, way, way. Again, it's a wild card. And a wild card, I've been at this 45 years. Every year we do top trends. This is the only year we had the wild card with Trump coming. So you never know what card's going to be played. Oh, they'll go way beyond it. They'll say it's worth 7,000. They'll make up something.
Right.
Again, they made up the crap. They put it up 70% in 1 year. 70% in 1 year. So what would be 70% increase of 4,000? You can see it go to 10,000.
We are living through the final chapter of a monetary era that began more than 50 years ago. The pressure is building, the cracks are spreading, and gold and silver are becoming lifelines in a world where trust in paper money is fading fast. Whether the next move is a cascading default, a coordinated debt reset, or an official revaluation of gold, one truth is unavoidable. Hard assets will determine who survives this transition and who gets wiped out by it. If this breakdown brought you clarity, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you stay ahead of the most important developments in the gold and silver markets. And here's the question I want you to answer below. Do you think the reset will happen through a deliberate gold revaluation, or through uncontrolled inflation that destroys fiat from the bottom up? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your perspective might be exactly what others in this community need to hear. Thanks for watching, stay prepared, and I'll see you in the next video.